What do Andrew Jackson, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Barack Obama all have in common? They were all members of one of the most powerful and historic political parties in the world, the Democratic Party. A party that has dramatically transformed over the last 200 years. In this video, we're diving into the fascinating and sometimes controversial history of the Democratic Party in the United States. It all begins in 1791 when Thomas Jefferson and James Madison founded the Democratic Republican Party to oppose the powerful Federalists. They believed in limited federal government, agrarian values, and strong state rights. This early political movement planted the seeds for what would later become the modern Democratic Party. In 1828, Andrew Jackson led a new political force that officially became known as the Democratic Party. Jackson's Democrats were populist, anti-elitist, and fiercely protective of individual liberty, at least for white men. They expanded voting rights, but also supported slavery and the forced removal of Native Americans. So yes, the party's early history is complicated and filled with contradictions from what we know it to be today. The Civil War and Reconstruction of the 1860s to 1870s was one of the most controversial and defining points of the Democratic Party. As tensions over slavery split the nation, the Democratic Party fractured. Southern Democrats supported slavery and secession, and after the Civil War, they resisted Reconstruction and opposed civil rights for freed African Americans. This was also the beginning of what became known as the Solid South, where white Democrats dominated Southern politics for decades. Now, if you've learned anything new so far, don't forget to subscribe to keep leveling up your learning. As we go through history, the voting maps often show a losing Democratic Party, which unfortunately for them had become pretty common. Leaders like William Jennings Bryan introduced populist ideas like free silver and anti-imperialism, but it wasn't until the Great Depression that the Democrats really reshaped themselves. In 1932, Franklin D. Roosevelt won in a landslide. And with his New Deal, the party took a sharp turn toward economic liberalism. Franklin D. Roosevelt's Democrats supported Social Security, workers' rights, and government-funded jobs. The New Deal coalition brought together labor unions, immigrants, African Americans, and the poor, fundamentally changing the party's base. This change in the party's primary demographic did not go unnoticed for long. During the Civil Rights and Realignment era, in the 1960s to 1980s, the Democratic Party took a bold step. Under John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, the party backed civil rights legislation, including the Civil Rights Acts of 1964 and the Voting Rights Acts of 1965. This marked a turning point. African Americans became a core part of the Democratic base, and many Southern voters began shifting to the Republican Party, a realignment that changed American politics forever. This brings us to the modern Democratic Party from the 1990s to today. In the 1990s, Bill Clinton took a centrist approach, embracing market-friendly policies while maintaining social programs. Then came Barack Obama, the first black president, elected in 2008. He energized a new generation with promises of hope, change, and universal health care. Today, the Democratic Party is a broad coalition, filled with moderates like Joe Biden and progressives like Bernie Sanders and AOC, generally coming together in support of social issues. And while there are internal divisions, the party generally supports LGBTQ plus equality, climate action, expanded healthcare, reproductive rights, and stronger regulation of corporations. In summary, the Democratic Party timeline is as follows. They began by supporting slavery and resisting Reconstruction. followed by many lost elections until Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal Act, thus redefining the party. It was at that point the party core became redefined to reflect the poor, African Americans, and immigrants' needs. They then fought for civil rights legislation, finding more support from the African Americans and losing a large Southern white voter base. And they're now currently a moderate party with a lot of progressive values and support. What could be next for the Democratic Party? Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe. And if you'd like a more in-depth Level 2 video on this subject, drop a comment down below.